Are you a millionaire or on your way to becoming one? Well, congratulations, but here's a little secret. Wealth doesn't just attract admiration, it also attracts lawsuits. I'm the business guy. I'm the CEO of Asset Protection Planners and Lawyers Limited, the nation's largest asset protection firm. And the lawsuits, creditors, and judgments that wealth attracts come from people who believe your money should be theirs. Stick around because today we're diving into how to keep what's yours, yours. And hey, if you like what you're hearing already, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you don't miss any of my future tips on building and securing your wealth. All right, let's get started. Asset protection isn't just about having the right documents or structures in place. It's about living an entire lifestyle of protecting what you've worked so hard to earn. So we're going to talk about asset protection of liquid assets like cash and stock, market portfolios. We'll talk about real estate and even personal property. But first, let me share a quick story that will make you realize why this is so important. I once had a client named John, and John was a tech entrepreneur who sold his startup for about $10 million. And he decided to celebrate by buying a $2 million house, a fancy sports car, and splurging on some risky investments. And then one day, John's neighbor slipped and fell on his driveway. And guess what? That neighbor's lawyer came after him like a shark smelling blood. John's assets were in his personal name, and within months, he was fighting off a lawsuit that far surpassed his insurance coverage that threatened to wipe him out. Sound scary? It should. And as you know, no matter how much insurance you have, you can always be sued for more. Plus, insurance companies are notorious for loving to collect your money. You know this. But when it comes time to pay out, they get as slippery as a greased pig at a county fair. They point out this exception and that exception in your policy. In fact, this just popped into my mind. I just was visiting my dad in Las Vegas, and somebody broke into his house while he was away for Christmas. $40,000 in jewelry stolen from his wife, a car, and a whole lot more. But they'd only reimburse him for a maximum of $1,500 for the jewelry. So don't rely on insurance. So here's the good news. You don't have to end up like John. The sad truth is lawsuits are really more common than you might think. In fact, did you know that in the U.S., over 40 million lawsuits are filed every year? And that's one lawsuit for every 8 Americans. So when you have money, you're a bigger target. So let's move on to how you can avoid John's mistakes. First of all, let's talk about protecting cash and liquid assets like stock portfolios. Did you know that according to Jay Minton, the average American will encounter 7 lawsuits in his or her lifetime, one of which is a killer lawsuit? Now, for millionaires, that number is even higher. Your cash and liquid investments are really easy targets because they're, well, liquid. And of course, that's exactly what the lawyer wants to take. So how do you make sure that they're safe? And the key here is diversification and legal separation. So don't keep all of your money in one bank account under your personal name. So instead, what we do for our clients is we consider these different strategies for them. First of all, offshore banking. Open an offshore bank account in a stable, safe jurisdiction like Switzerland or the Cook Islands. In fact, the last video I just did was me interviewing a Swiss banker, and we're talking about the safety and security of these banks. And these accounts not only offer privacy, but also when combined with the proper legal tools, which we'll talk about next, make it incredibly difficult for creditors to access your funds. So here's a quick example. A friend of mine moved a significant portion of his cash into an offshore account in Switzerland that we set up for him. So when a creditor tried to freeze his assets, they were completely blocked from touching the money because the Cook Islands trust that we set up for him held the money in that account. And the Cook Islands doesn't recognize U.S. judgment. So it's like having an invisible shield. So next is the asset protection trust, like we just talked about. Place your liquid assets into an offshore asset protection trust. We talk a lot about this on this channel. For example, a Cook Islands trust is practically untouchable. In fact, the Cook Islands have some of the strongest asset protection laws, and they're known for being like an impenetrable vault for your cash and stocks. In fact, my team and I have set up more Cook Islands trusts than anybody in the world. You can see more information on the trusts at assetprotectionplanners.com. I've been in the asset protection industry for 34 years as of this video. So to put it in perspective, 78% of ultra high net worth individuals use trusts to safeguard their assets. And for a good reason, they work. So next is LLCs and holding companies. For stock market portfolios, consider holding them through a limited liability company or family holding company. And this creates a legal barrier between your personal assets and potential lawsuits. In fact, when we set up a Cook Islands trust, we also will set up an offshore LLC to hold the bank account. And the reason why we do that is this. The LLC holds the account and the offshore trust owns the LLC. And we do this so you can be the LLC manager and the bank signatory when the waters are calm. However, when you get into a position where the judge can force you to turn over the money, our law firm trustee can step in to protect you. After all, your local courts don't have jurisdiction in the Cook Islands, and our law firm trustee can say, hey, you don't have jurisdiction down here, we don't have to comply with your orders, and your money is safe and secure. And remember, lawsuits are like vampires. They can suck your blood if they can find your vein. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, well, this sounds complicated and expensive, but let me ask you this. How complicated and expensive would it be to lose everything? I mean, imagine waking up one day to find your accounts are frozen, your investments are gone, and you're starting over at zero. So this is the real cost of inaction. I mean, a lot of people delay decisions until life makes it for them. Think about it. When it comes to protecting your wealth, you need to be the one that makes the first move. You need to attack first, and you attack first by moving the target so your opponent can't hit it, by putting your wealth into the proper asset protection tools like an asset protection trust. Okay, now let's talk about real estate. This is one of the most common assets millionaires own, and unfortunately, it's also one of the easiest to go after. So here's how to protect it. Land trust for each property. Land trust. Never hold real estate in your own personal name. Instead, create a separate land trust for each property for privacy of ownership. Now, this keeps your name out of the public records, so it takes the target off your back. So for your home, I would put your home into a land trust only without an LLC, so that way you keep your home ownership tax benefits. If you have an LLC involved, you can lose your tax benefits, so you don't want that. So for your personal residence, just a land trust. That's what we do for most of our clients. And then next, LLCs for each income property. Make an LLC the beneficiary of each land trust for your rental property. So all your properties you own, they're in separate land trusts. And then for the income property, the rental property, the homes that you don't live in, you make an LLC the beneficiary of that land trust. That way you have the extra shield. You have the privacy of the land trust. Then you have the extra shield of asset protection and charging order protection of the LLC. So when somebody sues you because they slipped and fell on one of your properties, they can't touch your other properties. Now, one of my clients owned a small portfolio of rental properties in California. Each one was held in its own LLC, land trust, and then LLC was the beneficiary of each land trust. So when a tenant tried to sue, they found that the LLC holding that specific property had no other assets to seize. Game over. And the game was over, especially because we did this next strategy also, equity stripping. Let's say your property is worth $1 million. So this can go two ways. We can put a cap lien on the property, call this a cap lien, and this is payable to a private LLC that we set up for you. This is often the LLC that's inside your offshore trust. And then if needed, if you need more powerful protection, we can help you take out a loan against the property and move that money into an offshore asset protection trust. Now, if somebody sues you, the property has little to no equity left to go after. Next is homestead exemptions, and this really depends on where you live. Your primary residence might be protected under homestead laws, like states like Florida and Texas have unlimited homestead protection as long as it's a certain size. It can't be too much land area that you live on. But beware, this doesn't apply to investment properties. And it doesn't apply if you move to one of those states and your creditor forces you into bankruptcy within 40 months or 3 1/3 years of moving there. So you can get into a lawsuit, you can get judgments against you, and the creditors can come together and force you into bankruptcy, and then they can take your house no matter where you live. And that depends on how long you've lived there, that is. So let's not forget, your home is your sanctuary, and you want to protect it like your life depends on it. In fact, I'll never forget working with a family in New York who lost their home because of a business lawsuit. They thought their house was safe because it was their personal residence, but they didn't take the legal steps to protect it. It's like paralysis through analysis. And the judge allowed the creditor to place a lien on their home, and they were forced to sell it. They kept calling and calling and calling us to get more and more information. We said, hey, they're going to freeze that home of yours. They're going to freeze your assets. You better take action. They kept on scratching their heads. Well, it's too late. Life made that decision for them because they didn't make it for themselves. So don't let that be you. So lastly here, let's talk about personal property. And that's things like cars, jewelry, art collections, and even yachts. These are often overlooked, but they can be big targets in lawsuits. Okay, what to do? Well, okay, insurance. Naturally, you should insure your car, boat if you have one. First and foremost, make sure that you're adequately insured. Like umbrella insurance is a must for any millionaire. It covers you beyond the limits of your regular policies, and it's usually pretty cheap. But it's not going to protect you for everything, and the insurance company is going to squirm if they can to get out of paying anything. But it's smart to have anyway. Separate ownership. High value items should be owned by an LLC or a trust. For example, if you have a yacht, register it under an LLC name. That way, if there is an accident, the lawsuit goes after the LLC instead of going after you. Next, avoid flashiness. This might sound unfun, but don't flaunt your wealth. The less people know about what you own, the less likely you are to become a target. So there you have it. Protecting your assets isn't just about having money. It's about really being smart with it. Whether it's your cash, real estate, your personal property, there are steps that you can make today to ensure your hard-earned wealth stays safe from lawsuits, creditors, or judgments. For more information, you can visit assetprotectionplanners.com. You can speak with one of our attorneys or consultants, or you can fill out a free consultation form. We'll get back to you. So if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with somebody who needs to hear this. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I've got more videos coming your way that will help you protect and grow your wealth. So thanks for watching. Remember, the best time to protect your assets is before somebody tries to take them. We'll see you in the next video. And this is The Business Guy.